The neural interface burned against Marcus Reed's skull as the military combat instructor's claws raked across his chest armor, leaving deep grooves in the reinforced plating. Blood trickled from his split lip as he crashed into the training mat for the 7th time in 10 minutes. Pathetic, hissed Velta, her serpentine form towering over him. Earth sends us this frail creature and expects us to forge warriors from flesh that breaks like glass. The other recruits Corvan berserkers with their forearms, crystalline Nexari with bodies harder than diamond. Even the phase-shifting Umbralaw watched with barely concealed contempt. Marcus had scored dead last in every physical assessment, his human frame laughably inadequate compared to the galaxy's warrior races. Perhaps the humans should stick to their books and leave warfare to their betters. Sneered Grix, a Corvan whose biceps were thicker than Marcus's torso. Marcus wiped blood from his mouth, his augmented reality display showing his heart rate spiking dangerously. The genetic enhancements that made other humans into super soldiers had rejected his system violently. He was baseline human in a universe where baseline meant obsolete. Again, he wheezed, struggling to his feet. Veltar's vertical pupils dilated. With surprise, "You cannot even stand properly, weak blood," I said again. The Veiltree's tail lashed with irritation. "Very well, let us end this humiliation." She struck faster than human eyes could follow, but Marcus had learned to read the micro-expressions of a dozen alien species. He twisted left as her claws whistled past his ear, then did something no one expected. He grabbed her extended arm and used her own momentum to throw her across the mat. The training hall fell silent. Veltar rose slowly, her hood flaring. "Impossible. No baseline human has the strength to." "I don't have the strength," Marcus interrupted, his neural implant glowing softly. "But I have something you don't." "And what is that, weakling?" Marcus smiled, blood still fresh on his teeth. "I learned." The next attack came from 3 directions simultaneously. Grix charged with his quad arms spread wide. A Nexari launched crystal shards from across the room, and Velta struck like a viper. Marcus's implant processed 17 different combat algorithms in nanoseconds. His enhanced reflexes the only augmentation his body could handle, turning him into a blur of motion. He ducked under Grix's swing, grabbed the Corvan's wrist, and redirected the berserker's charge into the Nexari's crystal form. The impact sent both aliens crashing into the wall. Veltar's strike missed by millimeters as Marcus rolled away, his hand finding the neural disruptor he'd quietly palmed from the equipment rack. The device attached to Veltar's neck with a soft click, and the proud warrior collapsed as her nervous system overloaded. "Cheating," Grix growled, untangling himself from the Nexari. "Adapting," Marcus corrected. "The galaxy's full of beings stronger, faster, and tougher than humans. But there's one thing we do better than anyone else." He stood over the unconscious Veltar, his eyes scanning the room full of alien warriors who had underestimated him. "We survive." 3 months later, Marcus had earned a reputation as the most dangerous recruit in the galactic military academy, through strength, but through an almost supernatural ability to turn any situation to his advantage. His neural implant had evolved beyond its original programming, creating tactical matrices that no alien mind could fully comprehend. The whispers followed him through the corridors. The human who thinks like a machine. The weakling who fights like a ghost. But one whisper carried weight that made even the instructors pause. The one who caught the attention of the architect. Kayla Voss was a legend before she was 25. The first human to achieve the rank of prime strategist. She commanded fleets that had never known defeat. Her tactical brilliance had saved 3 systems from the devourer swarms, and her name was spoken with reverence across 100 worlds. She was also the most beautiful woman Marcus had ever seen, with platinum hair that caught starlight and eyes the color of deep space. When she entered the Academy's neural warfare classroom, every recruit straightened to attention. "At ease," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had stared down alien emperors. "I'm here to observe a particular student's progress." Marcus felt her gaze settle on him like a physical weight. The other recruits shifted uncomfortably, sensing the sudden shift in the room's dynamics. "Reed," she continued, "you've been flagged by our psychological assessment systems. Your tactical creativity scores are unprecedented." She moved toward him with fluid grace, her uniform displaying the quantum medals that marked her as one of the galaxy's most decorated officers. "Tell me, what do you see when you look at this scenario?" The holographic display materialized between them, showing a fleet engagement between human forces and an unknown alien threat. The enemy ships moved in patterns that defied conventional tactics, their weapons systems operating on principles that seemed to break the laws of physics. Every other recruit in the room had analyzed this scenario. All had failed. Marcus studied the display for 30 seconds, his implant processing terabytes of data. Then he smiled. "I see a trap," he said simply. "But not the one you think." Kayla's eyebrows rose slightly. "Explain." "The alien fleet isn't trying to win this engagement. They're testing us, analyzing our responses to create a counter-strategy. Every move we make feeds their learning algorithms." He gestured to the display. "But they've made one mistake, which is, they assume we're trying to win too." Marcus's fingers danced across the holographic interface, repositioning the human fleet in a formation that looked like tactical suicide. Ships exposed their vulnerable underbellies, weapons powered down, shields dropping to minimal levels. "You're surrendering," Grix observed with disgust. "I'm learning," Marcus corrected, "and teaching." The simulation ran forward. The alien fleet, programmed to analyze and counter human tactics, suddenly found itself facing something it couldn't comprehend, a human force that appeared to be giving up. The enemy's learning algorithms crashed trying to process the paradox, their formation dissolving into chaos. In that moment of confusion, Marcus struck the defenseless human ships, revealed hidden weapon systems, their apparent vulnerability, transforming into the perfect killing positions. The alien fleet died in seconds. Never understanding what had happened, the room fell silent except for the soft hum of the holographic projectors. Kayla stepped closer, her eyes studying Marcus with new intensity. "How did you know their algorithms would fail?" "Because they were designed by minds that couldn't conceive of voluntary weakness," Marcus replied. "They can counter every strategy except the one that makes no sense." "Fascinating." She moved until she was standing directly in front of him, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something exotic and expensive. "Walk with me, Reed. We have much to discuss." The observation deck of the Academy's command tower offered a view of the entire training complex, where thousands of recruits from hundreds of species honed their skills for the coming war. Kayla stood at the reinforced viewport, her reflection ghost-like against the stars. "Do you know why you're really here, Marcus?" he asked without turning around. "To learn to fight aliens," he replied, though something in her tone suggested the answer was more complex. "No." She turned to face him, and her expression was grave. "You're here because humanity is dying." The words hit him like a physical blow. What genetic enhancement programs, the super soldier initiatives, the attempts to make us stronger, faster, more resilient, they're all failing. The enhanced humans are sterile, their lifespans shortened by decades. We've been trying so hard to become like them. She gestured toward the training grounds, that we've forgotten what makes us human. Marcus felt his world shifting. "But the war effort is a lie," Kayla finished. "Oh, the threats are real enough. The Devourer swarms, the Hegemon Empire, the Void cults, they all want to see humanity extinct. But every strategy we've employed has been borrowed from our enemies. We fight like them, think like them, and because of that, we lose like them." She moved to a holographic display that materialized at her touch, showing casualty reports from across the galaxy. The numbers were staggering. 97% of enhanced humans die within 5 years of their augmentation. The remaining 3% becomes something that can barely be called human anymore. We're destroying ourselves trying to be what we're not. "Then why? Because you're different." Her eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made his breath catch. "Neural implant didn't enhance your body because your body rejected the modifications. Instead, it enhanced your mind in ways we're only beginning to understand. You don't think like an enhanced human or an alien, you think like what we used to be before we started trying to be someone else." The implications crashed over him like a wave. "You want me to be weak?" "I want you to be human," she corrected. "Pure human. The kind of human that survived ice ages and plagues, that turned deserts into gardens and reached for the stars with nothing but determination and ingenuity." She stepped closer, her hand touching his arm. "I've been studying your tactical patterns, Marcus. They're not based on superior strength or speed or technology. They're based on something the aliens can't comprehend: the willingness to sacrifice everything for an idea. What idea? That weakness can be strength, that losing can be winning, that sometimes the only way to save something is to be willing to lose it." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I've been searching for years for someone who could think like that. Someone who could show us how to be human again." Marcus stared at her, understanding beginning to dawn. "You're not just a strategist." "No," she agreed. "I'm the leader of the Restoration Project, a secret initiative to preserve true humanity before it's lost forever. And you, Marcus Reed, are our proof of concept." Proof of what? That humans don't need to be enhanced to be extraordinary. That our greatest strength isn't our ability to become like other species, but our ability to remain uniquely ourselves. She moved even closer, her voice becoming urgent. I need you to help me save our species, not by making us stronger, but by showing us how to be human. The weight of her words settled over him like a mantle. What do you need me to do? Tomorrow, you'll face the Academy's greatest challenge, the Crucible. It's a test at no baseline human has ever passed. Enhanced humans struggle with it. Most aliens find it impossible, and if I fail, then humanity dies slowly, one enhanced generation at a time, until we're nothing but a memory. She reached up and touched his face, her fingers warm against his skin. But if you succeed, we get to stay human. We get to show the galaxy what humans can really do. The Crucible was a name that carried weight throughout the Academy. It was the final test, the ultimate challenge that separated the merely competent from the truly exceptional. In its 100-year history, only 43 beings had passed its trials. None had been baseline human. Marcus stood at the entrance to the testing chamber, watching as the massive doors sealed behind him. The room beyond was a perfect cube, each wall displaying the same message in every known language: victory through strength, wisdom through suffering, honor through sacrifice. Kayla's voice reached him through the neural link, private and intimate. Remember, Marcus, you're not here to prove you're as strong as they are. You're here to prove you don't need to be. The first trial began without warning, the chamber filled with a dozen combat drones, each one armed with weapons that could reduce a Corvan berserker to ash. Marcus had no weapons, no armor, no enhancements beyond his neural implant and whatever baseline human ingenuity he could muster. The drones attacked in perfect coordination, their movements synchronized by quantum-entangled processors. Marcus dove behind a pillar that materialized from the floor, energy bolts scorching the air where he'd been standing. His implant analyzed the attack patterns, searching for weaknesses. There were none. The drones were perfect killing machines. But perfection, Marcus realized, was itself a weakness. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple mirror grooming tool that every recruit carried. Instead of running from the drones, he ran toward them, holding the mirror at precise angles to reflect their energy weapons back at their comrades, the drones. Perfect coordination became their undoing. Unable to distinguish between reflected shots and enemy fire, they began targeting each other. Within minutes, they had destroyed themselves in a cascade of friendly fire. The second trial was psychological. The chamber filled with holographic projections of everyone Marcus had ever cared about: his parents, his sister, his childhood friends. Each projection was in mortal danger, and he could save only one. Choose, a voice commanded. Who lives, who dies? What is the worth of a human life? Marcus looked at the projections, his heart breaking as he saw his sister reaching for him, his mother calling his name. This was the trial that broke most candidates, the impossible choice between loves. But Marcus smiled. I choose none of them, he said. The projections flickered with confusion. You must choose. The parameters require. The parameters are wrong, Marcus interrupted. This isn't about choosing who lives. It's about refusing to accept that anyone has to die. He walked to the chamber's control interface, his neural implant interfacing with the system. Instead of playing by the rules, he began rewriting them, turning the simulation from a choice between deaths into a challenge to save everyone. The third trial was strategic, a galactic war simulation where humanity faced extinction against impossible odds. Every conventional strategy led to defeat. Every innovative tactic failed against superior alien technology. Marcus studied the scenario for hours, his implant processing millions of variables. Then he did something unprecedented. He surrendered. Not just the battle, but the war. He opened communication channels with every enemy faction and offered humanity's unconditional surrender, with one condition: the right to preserve human culture and knowledge. The alien forces, programmed to achieve victory, accepted. But in accepting humanity's surrender, they had to guarantee humanity's survival. Marcus had turned defeat into a different kind of victory, the victory of persistence. Overpowered, the chamber fell silent. Then, slowly, the walls began to glow with soft light. Unprecedented, came a voice from the Academy's central AI. The candidate has achieved victory through defeat, strength through weakness, wisdom through ignorance of conventional limitations. The doors opened, revealing Kayla standing in the corridor. Her eyes were bright with tears she refused to shed. How do you feel? She asked. Like I just learned something important, Marcus replied. Being human isn't about being the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. It's about being the most adaptable, the most creative, the most stubborn, about refusing to accept that any situation is truly hopeless. And now I help you save our species. The hidden levels beneath the academy were a revelation. What Marcus had thought was a training facility was actually the headquarters of the largest underground movement in human history, laboratories where scientists worked to reverse the effects of genetic enhancement, archives containing the complete cultural heritage of pre-enhancement humanity, and in the deepest level, a war room where the fate of the species was being decided. "Welcome to the Restoration," Kayla said as they descended through layers of security that would have impressed a paranoid emperor. "We've been preparing for this moment for 15 years. The war room was filled with holographic displays showing the true state of the galaxy. Enhanced human colonies were failing across 12 sectors. Birth rates had plummeted to near extinction levels. The super soldier programs were producing beings that could barely be called human anymore, living weapons with no connection to their own species. "The public doesn't know," explains Dr. Elena Vasquez, the project's chief scientist. "The military covers it up, claims the enhanced humans are just reassigned to classified operations. But the truth is, they're dying. All of them." Marcus studied the data streams, his implant processing the implications. "How long do we have?" "At current rates, maybe 50 years before enhanced humans become extinct, 100 before baseline humans follow them." Dr. Vasquez's expression was grim. "Unless we can change the paradigm." "Which brings us to you," Kayla said. "Your success in the Crucible has proven something we've theorized for years, that baseline humans aren't inferior to enhanced humans. They're different, with their own unique advantages." She activated a new display showing Marcus's test results. "Your neural patterns during the trials were unlike anything we've recorded. You didn't just solve the problems, you redefined them. You thought in ways that no enhanced human or alien could follow." "Because I had to," Marcus replied. "When you can't overpower your enemies, you have to outthink them." "Exactly, and that's what we need to teach the galaxy." Kayla moved to stand beside him, her presence both comforting and electrifying. "We need to show them that humans have something no other species possesses." "What's that?" "The ability to find hope in hopelessness, to see opportunity in disaster, to turn weakness into strength and defeat into victory." Her eyes met his. "We need you to lead a mission." The mission details were staggering. A strike team would infiltrate the Hegemon Empire's capital world, where the aliens were holding thousands of captured humans for experimentation. The goal wasn't rescue, it was demonstration. To show the galaxy that baseline humans could achieve what enhanced humans and alien warriors could not. "The team will be entirely baseline human," Dr. Vasquez explained. "No enhancements, no alien technology, no super weapons, just human ingenuity and determination." "You're asking me to lead a suicide mission," Marcus observed. "I'm asking you to lead a resurrection," Kayla corrected. "The galaxy thinks humans are a dying species that only survives through borrowed strength. We're going to prove them wrong." She moved closer, her hand finding his. "I won't lie to you, Marcus, the odds are terrible. The Hegemon Empire has never been successfully infiltrated. Their security systems are designed by species that think in ways we can barely comprehend. But they've never faced humans who think like humans, who embrace their humanity instead of trying to escape it." Her grip tightened. "I need you to do this, not just for the mission, but for me." The admission hung between them like a bridge across an abyss. Marcus had suspected that Kayla's interest in him went beyond the professional, but hearing her say it made something inside him shift. "Why me?" he asked softly. "Because you're the first person I've met who makes me want to be more human, not less." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because when I watch you fight, I see what we used to be, what we could be again. And if I die, then you'll die as a human, not as an enhanced shadow of one, not as an alien wannabe, but as a true human being who chose to risk everything for his species." She stepped closer, her body almost touching his. "And I'll make sure the galaxy remembers what that means." The weight of her faith in him was almost overwhelming, but as Marcus looked around the war room, seeing the faces of the scientists and strategists who had devoted their lives to preserving humanity, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Purpose. "When do we leave?" he asked. The baseline human strike team assembled in the hidden hangar was unlike any military unit Marcus had ever seen. No enhanced muscles, no artificial organs, no genetic modifications. Just 12 humans who had been deemed unsuitable for enhancement programs. The rejects, the failures, the ones who couldn't be improved, they were perfect. Lieutenant Commander Alex Chen had been discharged from the enhanced program when his body rejected the neural implants. Now he served as the team's intelligence specialist, his unmodified brain capable of processing information in ways that baffled enhanced humans. Sergeant Maria Santos had failed enhanced training because she couldn't adapt to the new reaction times. In baseline form, her natural reflexes were flawless. It was the artificial speeds that had confused her nervous system. Dr. James Wright was a medic who had been blacklisted from enhancement because his empathy scores were too high. Enhanced humans needed to be capable of cold calculation in medical emergencies. But Wright's natural compassion made him a healer in the truest sense. Each member of the team had been rejected by the enhancement programs for being too human. Now that humanity was exactly what they needed to be. Our target is the hegemon capital world of Zerthal, Kayla explained as holographic displays showed the fortress planet. It's protected by defense systems that have never been breached. The hegemon empire considers it absolutely impregnable, which it is, Dr. Vasquez added, if you try to attack it like an enhanced human or an alien warrior. But if you approach it like a human ... double quotes. Marcus studied the planetary defenses, massive shield generators powered by 3 artificial suns, weapon arrays that could sterilize continents, a space fleet that outnumbered the entire human navy. I see the problem, he said. They're defending against an invasion. Exactly, Kayla confirmed. But you're not invading, you're infiltrating. The hegemon defense systems are designed to stop armies, not individuals. They're watching for massive energy signatures, not small groups of baseline humans. The key is the prison complex, Chen explained, highlighting a section of the planet's surface. It's where they're holding the human captives, but it's also where they're conducting their experiments on human psychology and physiology. They're trying to understand us, Santos realized, to figure out how humans think, and failing, Wright added, because they're studying enhanced humans, not baseline humans. They're analyzing the wrong data. Marcus smiled as the plan began to take shape in his mind. We're going to teach them the difference. The infiltration plan was audacious in its simplicity. Instead of trying to sneak past the hegemon defenses, they would walk through them, disguised as a diplomatic mission from a minor human colony. They would request permission to visit the human prisoners for humanitarian purposes. The hegemon empire prides itself on following galactic law, Kayla explained. They can't refuse a legitimate diplomatic request without causing a scandal. But once you're inside, you disappear. The diplomatic team becomes a rescue operation, and the rescue operation becomes something else entirely. The night before departure, Marcus found himself alone with Kayla in the observation deck. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. I need to tell you something, she said without preamble, about why this mission is so important to me. I'm listening. I was enhanced once. 7 years ago, I volunteered for an experimental program that was supposed to make me the perfect strategist. Enhanced cognition, emotional regulation, tactical prediction algorithms built into my neural pathways. Marcus felt a chill. What happened? I lost myself. For 2 years, I was brilliant, efficient, successful, and completely hollow. I could analyze any situation, predict any outcome, but I couldn't feel anything about it. I was becoming a machine. She turned to face him, and he saw tears on her cheeks. It took me 3 years to reverse the process, to become human again. And in all that time, I've never met anyone who made me feel as human as you do. Kayla, I need you to come back from this mission, Marcus. Not just for humanity, but for me. Because I think I'm falling in love with you, and I want to be human enough to know what that means. The confession hung between them like a promise and a prayer. Marcus reached out and touched her face, feeling the warmth of her skin, the realness of her emotions. I'll come back, he said. We'll all come back, because that's what humans do. We survive. Promise me. I promise. But I need you to promise me something too. That you'll remember what we're fighting for. Not just the species, but the individual. Not just humanity, but humans. She kissed him then, and in that moment, Marcus understood what they were really trying to save. Not just the genetic code or the cultural heritage, but the capacity for love, for hope, for the kind of stubborn optimism that made humans refuse to accept defeat. Tomorrow they would risk everything on a plan that no sane strategist would approve. But tonight, they were simply 2 humans who had found something worth fighting for in each other. The hegemon empire's capital world of Zerthal was a monument to alien supremacy, Crystalline spires pierced the clouds, their surfaces crawling, with energy patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. The planet's 3 artificial suns cast everything in a harsh bronze light that made the human delegation squint behind their protective visors. Marcus stood at the viewport of their diplomatic transport, watching the fortress world grow larger as they approached. Somewhere down there, thousands of humans were being held prisoner, their minds and bodies subjected to experiments that would help the hegemon empire understand how to destroy humanity more efficiently. Nervous? Asked Chen, joining him at the viewport. Terrified, Marcus admitted. But that's good. Fear keeps you human. The landing platform was a statement of intimidation. Hegemon warriors stood at attention in perfect formation, their exoskeletons gleaming with built-in weapons systems. Each one was 3 meters tall, built for warfare and conquest. They looked at the human delegation with the kind of casual contempt reserved for insects. "Welcome to Zerthal," said the hegemon official who greeted them. Its voice was synthesized, coming from speakers embedded in its armored shell. "I am Executor Vexeneth. You will follow protocols exactly." "Of course," Marcus replied, his diplomatic credentials identifying him as Ambassador Reed from the Kepler colony. "We're grateful for the opportunity to visit our people." The prison complex was a maze of corridors and chambers that seemed designed to confuse and demoralize. Human captives were held in cells that constantly shifted their configurations, preventing any sense of familiarity or security. The psychological warfare was subtle but effective, or would have been, if the hedge understood what they were dealing with. "Your people are interesting," Vexeneth commented as they walked through the facility. "They respond to stimuli in ways our models cannot predict. The enhanced specimens are fairly straightforward, but the baseline humans ... are unpredictable," Marcus finished. "That's what makes them human." They passed through a section where human captives were being tested on puzzle-solving exercises. The enhanced humans approached the problems with logical efficiency, solving them quickly but predictably. The baseline humans took longer, tried stranger approaches, and sometimes failed completely, but sometimes they found solutions that no one had thought possible. This one, Vexeneth indicated a cell where a young woman was working on a 3-dimensional maze, has been attempting the same problem for 17 days. She fails repeatedly, yet continues. Marcus recognized the behavior. Immediately, what's she doing differently? She appears to be trying to solve the maze not by finding the exit, but by understanding the principles that govern its construction. It is ... inefficient. Marcus smiled. "No, it's brilliant. She's not trying to solve this maze, she's trying to solve all mazes." The implications hit him like a thunderbolt. The hegemon was studying human behavior, but they were asking the wrong questions. They wanted to understand how humans solved problems, but they couldn't comprehend why humans solved problems. "Executor Vexeneth," Marcus said carefully, "might I suggest a different approach to your research? Explain. You're studying human methodology, but you're ignoring human motivation. The enhanced humans solve problems because they're programmed to. The baseline humans solve problems because they choose to. That's the difference you can't quantify." Vexeneth's optical sensors focused on Marcus with new intensity. "You speak as if you have insights into human psychology." "I speak as a human who understands what makes us unique." Marcus gestured toward the maze-solving woman. "She's not trying to escape because she thinks she can. She's trying to escape because refusing to try would mean accepting defeat, and humans don't accept defeat." "Fascinating. Perhaps you would be willing to participate in our research." "I'd be honored." The testing chamber was a perfect cube, its walls lined with sensors that monitored everything from brain activity to emotional responses. Marcus sat in the center, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex scenarios. "Scenario 1, Vexeneth announced. You are commanding a human fleet against superior hegemon forces. All tactical options lead to defeat. What do you do?" Marcus studied the scenario for exactly 3 seconds. "I surrender." "Surrender? The parameters indicate this is unacceptable." "The parameters are wrong. I surrender the fleet, but I don't surrender the war. I accept tactical defeat to achieve strategic victory." "Impossible. Defeat cannot be victory. Watch me." Marcus began inputting commands, using the fleet's surrender as a deception. While the hegemon forces were securing the captured ships, he had the human crews subtly sabotage their own vessels. When the hegemon tried to integrate the captured technology into their own systems, the sabotage spread like a virus through their fleet. Within hours, the hegemon force was crippled by their own victory. "Scenario 2, Vexeneth continued. The Marcus could hear confusion in the synthesized voice. You are alone, unarmed, facing certain death. What do you do? I laugh. Explain. Because if I'm going to die, I might as well die human, and humans laugh in the face of death. It's one of the things that makes us impossible to truly defeat. The scenarios continued for hours, each one designed to break down human psychology and reveal the logical patterns that governed human behavior. But Marcus didn't respond with logic, he responded with humanity. He made choices that made no tactical sense but perfect human sense. And slowly the hegemon testing systems began to malfunction. Their analysis algorithms couldn't process responses that were simultaneously irrational and effective. Their psychological models crashed trying to understand a mindset that treated defeat as opportunity and death as just another problem to be solved. Enough, Vexeneth finally declared. These results are inconsistent with our models. That's because your models are based on a fundamental misunderstanding, Marcus replied. You're trying to analyze humans as if we were just another species of alien, but we're not. We're human. And humanity isn't a logical system, it's a choice. A choice. The choice to keep trying when trying is pointless. The choice to hope when hope is irrational. The choice to be human when being human is the hardest thing in the universe. Marcus stood, his neural implant sending coded signals to his team throughout the facility. And you've just helped me prove that humanity is the one force in the galaxy that can't be quantified, predicted, or defeated. What do you mean? I mean, Executor Vexeneth, that you've been studying the wrong humans, and now you're about to learn the difference. The prison complex erupted into chaos as Marcus's signal reached his team, but this wasn't the kind of chaos the hegemon had prepared for. It was human chaos, unpredictable and creative. Chen had spent his time in the facility not mapping the physical layout, but understanding the psychological one. He knew which guards were overconfident, which systems were automated, which procedures were followed by rote. When the breakout began, he didn't attack the strongest points, he attacked the complacent ones. Santos had been observing not the weapon systems, but the guards' behavioral patterns. She knew that hegemon warriors relied on their exoskeletons for protection. But the exoskeletons had one weakness: they were designed for fighting other aliens, not humans who thought like humans. Wright had been studying the prison's medical systems, learning how they monitored and controlled the human captives. When the time came, he didn't just disable the systems, he turned them into weapons, using the hegemon's own medical technology to create diversions and confusion. But the real breakthrough came from the baseline human prisoners themselves. When they realized what was happening, they didn't wait for rescue, they created their own opportunities. The woman who had been working on the maze problem for 17 days suddenly stood up and began reciting mathematical equations, not because she had solved the maze, but because she had solved the principle behind all mazes. Her voice carried through the facility's communication system, and every human prisoner began to understand not just how to escape their individual cells, but how to break the entire system. This is impossible. Vexeneth's voice echoed through the complex. The humans are acting in coordination without any communication network. That's because they don't need one, Marcus replied, his voice carrying through the facility's speakers. They're thinking like humans. When humans face a common threat, they don't need orders, they need purpose. The breakout wasn't a military operation, it was a human operation. Prisoners helped each other not because they were commanded to, but because that's what humans did. They shared information, resources, and hope with a kind of spontaneous cooperation that no alien species could replicate. Marcus fought his way through the facility, not with superior strength or speed, but with superior unpredictability. When hegemon warriors expected him to retreat, he advanced. When they expected him to attack, he negotiated. When they expected him to follow tactical doctrine, he improvised. You cannot escape, Vexeneth declared as Marcus reached the central control room. This facility is impregnable. You're right, Marcus agreed, his hands working at the control interface. I can't escape, but I can do something better. What I can make sure everyone else does. The control room's main display showed the entire facility layout, with thousands of human prisoners marked in red throughout the complex. Marcus's neural implant interfaced with the hegemon systems, not to hack them, but to understand them. The beautiful thing about perfection, Marcus said as his fingers danced across alien controls, is that it's predictable. Your entire security system is based on the assumption that prisoners will try to escape through the obvious routes, correct? All exit vectors are monitored and defended, but what if they don't use the exits? Marcus activated a sequence that the hegemon designers had never considered. He opened every cell door simultaneously, disabled the facility's gravity generators in specific sections, and triggered the emergency evacuation protocols for the alien staff. The result was magnificent chaos. Thousands of humans poured through corridors that suddenly had no up or down, while confused hegemon guards tried to follow evacuation procedures that assumed the prisoners would remain contained. The facility's own safety systems became the escape route. "You're destroying the entire complex," Vexeneth observed. "I'm liberating it," Marcus corrected. "There's a difference. The human prisoners didn't just escape, they helped each other escape. Enhanced humans used their superior strength to assist baseline humans. Baseline humans used their creativity to find paths that enhanced humans couldn't see. Scientists helped warriors, warriors protected civilians, and civilians provided the hope that kept everyone moving. It was the most human thing Marcus had ever witnessed. "This is Commander Santos," came a voice through his comm. "We've secured the landing bay. Transport ships are ready for evacuation." "This is Dr. Wright," another voice added. "Medical teams are treating the wounded. No one gets left behind." "This is Chen," the final voice confirmed. "I've downloaded the complete Hegemon research files. We now know everything they know about human psychology and everything they don't know." Marcus looked at Vexeneth, who stood motionless in the center of the control room, optical sensors flickering with what might have been confusion or admiration. "You realize," the Hegemon executor said slowly, "that this changes everything. Our entire understanding of humanity was based on false premises." "That's the point," Marcus replied. "You were studying humans who were trying to be something else. You never saw what we actually are. And what are you? We're the species that turns impossible into inevitable. We're the ones who look at a perfect system and find the one flaw that makes it human." Marcus stepped toward the exit, but paused. "We're the ones who survive by being ourselves, not by becoming you." The evacuation was a masterpiece of human cooperation. Enhanced humans and baseline humans working together, not because they were the same, but because they were both human. The transport ships lifted off from Zerthal, carrying not just rescued prisoners but proof that humanity's greatest strength had never been its enhancements. As they cleared the planet's atmosphere, Marcus received a transmission from Kayla. Her face appeared on the screen, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." "We did it," Marcus corrected. "All of us. Enhanced and baseline together. The galaxy is watching, Marcus. The news feeds are showing footage of the breakout. They're calling it impossible." "Good," Marcus smiled. "Let them call it impossible. Humans specialize in impossible." The rescue fleet that met them at the rendezvous point was unlike anything in human military history. Enhanced human warships flying alongside baseline human vessels, their crews working in perfect coordination despite decades of artificial division. The galaxy watched in fascination as humanity demonstrated something no other species had achieved. Through diversity, the Hegemon Empire has issued a formal complaint to the Galactic Council, reported Admiral Torres, the enhanced human commander of the rescue fleet. "They're claiming the breakout was an act of war." "Let them," Marcus replied. "From the bridge of the flagship, we have something better than their complaint. We have their research data." The stolen Hegemon files revealed the true scope of the threat facing humanity. The Empire hadn't just been studying human prisoners, they had been developing weapons, specifically designed to exploit the psychological weaknesses they thought they had identified in human behavior. Pacification fields that target enhanced human neural pathways, Dr. Wright explained as he analyzed the data. Psychological warfare protocols designed to break human morale. Biological weapons that specifically target enhanced human physiology. But none of it works on baseline humans, Chen added. Their entire anti-human arsenal is designed to fight the wrong enemy. Marcus studied the tactical implications. That's why they needed the prisoners. They were trying to understand baseline human psychology so they could design new weapons, and instead, they gave us their complete strategic playbook, Santos observed. They showed us exactly how they think, how they plan, how they fight. The irony was perfect. In trying to understand humanity well enough to destroy it, the Hegemon Empire had revealed their own weaknesses, their rigid hierarchical thinking patterns, their inability to adapt to unexpected situations, their dependence on technological superiority rather than creative problem-solving. "We need to get this information to the Restoration Project," Marcus decided. "This changes everything." But as the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, proximity alarms began sounding throughout the ships. The tactical display showed a massive Hegemon battle fleet emerging from hyperspace, around them dozens of ships, each one powerful enough to destroy a planet. This is Hegemon War Commander Zextal, came a transmission on all frequencies. You will surrender the stolen data and submit to execution for crimes against the Empire. Marcus looked at the overwhelming force surrounding them. The ships were faster, more heavily armed, and commanded by beings who had been bred for warfare. By any logical calculation, the human fleet was doomed. Admiral Torres, Marcus said calmly, prepare for surrender. What Torres's enhanced reflexes had been primed for battle. We can't surrender, we have to fight. No, Marcus replied, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had learned to think like a human. We have to win. And sometimes winning means losing first. The surrender proceeded exactly as Marcus had planned. The Hegemon ships moved into boarding positions, their commanders confident in their victory. But as the alien forces prepared to take control of the human vessels, they discovered something that their tactical models hadn't predicted. The humans weren't defeated, they were waiting. Marcus had used the time during the surrender negotiations to coordinate with both the enhanced and baseline human crews, not through official channels, but through the kind of informal communication network that humans created instinctively when facing a common threat. Now, he said quietly, what happened next would be studied by military historians for generations. The human fleet didn't fight like a military force, it fought like a human community. Enhanced humans provided the strength and speed, while baseline humans provided the creativity and adaptability. Each ship became a self-contained unit that could think, adapt, and improvise. The Hegemon boarding parties found themselves facing not soldiers, but humans who refused to accept defeat. Maintenance crews who had turned their tools into weapons. Medical staff who had weaponized their knowledge of alien physiology. Civilians who fought with the desperate courage of people protecting their families. But the real genius was in the coordination. Marcus had turned the human fleet into a living organism, each ship adapting to support the others. When one vessel was overwhelmed, its crew would evacuate to neighboring ships, taking their knowledge and expertise with them. When another ship was damaged, crews from across the fleet would organize rescue operations. The Hegemon forces trained for conventional warfare found themselves fighting something they couldn't understand, an enemy that got stronger when it was weakened, that found opportunity in disaster, that turned every defeat into a new form of victory. This is impossible, War Commander Zextal transmitted as his forces began to falter. You cannot defeat superior numbers through inferior tactics. We're not using inferior tactics, Marcus replied. We're using human tactics. There's a difference. The battle ended not with the destruction of the Hegemon fleet, but with something far more devastating, their complete psychological defeat. The alien commanders, bred for conquest and domination, found themselves facing beings who simply refused to be conquered or dominated. You have won this engagement, Zextal finally admitted, but you have not won the war. We haven't won the war, Marcus agreed. We've changed the rules of the war, and that's something you'll never understand. As the surviving Hegemon ships retreated, Marcus realized that they had achieved something far more important than a military victory. They had proven that enhanced humans and baseline humans could work together as equals, each contributing their unique strengths to the common cause of survival. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again.